Hi, this is Alexis Neely, and over the next 15 minutes, I'm going to be sharing with you the Lift foundation that your business needs for success and to grow. Now, what is the Lift foundation? Well, it is the legal, insurance, financial, and tax systems that you need. Now, before you walk away, I know that this is something that you don't want to hear about, or at least you think that you don't want to hear about, but you really do, and here's why. The Lift foundation is what you need to have in place to grow your business, to build a meaningful, sustainable, impactful business that is going to make a difference for a lifetime. The Lift Foundation is the difference between bumbling along, creating a business that's built on a house of cards and ready to crumble at any moment, and building a real business that makes a real difference. Now, if you were Oprah Winfrey, Donald Trump, or Richard Branson sitting across from me right now, I would be sharing with you the exact same information that I'm going to be sharing over the next 15 minutes. It is how to build a Lift foundation into your business for ultimate success and ultimate growth. Think about it this way. Like the roots of a tree allow the tree to grow as big as it possibly can get, or if the roots are shrunken, the tree is shrunken as well. Or a skyscraper. A skyscraper can only grow as tall as the foundation will allow. Well, with your business, it's the exact same. Your business can only grow as big, as successful, as impactful as your Lift foundation allows. So let's get into it and talk about the Lift foundation. And the first thing that I want to start with is something that many lawyers don't want you to know, and that is about the legal entity of your business. Remember, we're talking about legal, insurance, financial, and tax, and we always start with legal, and a lot of lawyers out there are giving you bad information. In fact, when I built my first business, I had bad information, and I'm a lawyer, so I know that many of you are getting bad information as well. So let's start out by looking at that information, and that is about your business entity. Now, some of you, like me, have been told you don't need to have a business entity in place. I was told that because I was building a law firm. And why do you need a business entity? Well, there's a couple reasons, but the main reason is to protect your personal assets from the activities of your business. Let me just repeat that. To protect your personal assets, your home, your bank accounts, your brokerage accounts, your retirement accounts, everything that you're building for your family. You want that to stay totally separate from your business, because if you're building a real, meaningful business, you're going to be taking business risk. It's the only way to grow. You've got to invest in things. You've got to oftentimes borrow money. Sometimes you have to use your own money to grow the business, and that means taking risk. And whenever you're taking risk, you don't want to put your personal assets at risk. And so you need to have a business entity to create a shield between your business activities and your personal assets. So with that out of the way, if anybody has told you that you don't need a business entity in place, they are wrong. As I said, they told me that too because I'm a lawyer, and they said, well, if you're a lawyer, your business entity won't protect against your personal service liability. So if you do something wrong as a lawyer, your personal assets are still at risk. And while that's true, if you are providing personal services, there's all the other risks that you take as a business owner besides just giving of your service, like employees and team members and independent contractors, and putting money into the business, and leases and equipment leases and contracts and all of these things that you do as a business owner. If you don't have the business entity, you're on the hook personally. Now, a lot of people think, well, I already have my business entity set up, so I'm good to go. There's nothing I need to worry about. And unfortunately, that's not right either. Unfortunately, a lot of lawyers are giving people bad advice about it. And again, I can tell you this because I actually gave some of that advice to my clients thinking that it was good advice. You see, lawyers aren't really bad people. They're just building their business on a bad business model, and a business model that hurts you. So let's talk about that. What does that mean? Well, if you worked with a lawyer to set up your business entity, and you may not have, you may have had your business entity set up by a CPA, or maybe you even went online and did it yourself. No matter which one of the ways that you got it done, it probably wasn't done exactly right. So what does that mean? Well, if you go in and you work with a lawyer, the lawyer will set up your business entity for you, put it in place, and let you know, okay, you're all taken care of. Here's your tax ID number, probably even gives you a fancy notebook with all your documents in it and sends you on your way. Well, I'll ask you, if that was your experience, Have you heard from your lawyer since then? Have you talked to your lawyer since then? Probably not if you worked with a traditional lawyer, because lawyers are used to either billing their fees on an hourly basis, which makes it very unlikely that you want to call your lawyer for any ongoing advice, or if they're billing you on a flat fee basis, you paid them all up front, thought you got it all taken care of, but didn't realize that in order to have your business entity really protect your assets, you've got to maintain the business entity. What does that mean? Well, it means, number one, that you need to have corporate resolutions. Corporate resolutions, what are those? Well, that's where you take notes about what the business is doing. So, for example, if you bought any insurance, if you hired people, if you borrowed any money, these are all things that need to be noted in your corporate record books. And unfortunately, most people never do it. Why? Well, because their lawyers don't tell them to, that's why. And every year you need to keep up to date your minutes of your corporation. So you need to be having an annual meeting, and you need to be keeping records on an ongoing basis. And again, most people are not doing this because their lawyer doesn't tell them how important it is. You probably didn't even issue your stock certificates or your membership interests. Well, what does that mean? That's what shows that you own the company. You probably have them sitting in your corporate record book, but you've never done it if you're like most people. And if you don't do it, what happens? Well, what happens is that if something does happen, well, I should say when something does happen, because the fact of the matter is things will happen in your business. Things will come along. Maybe you'll be threatened with a lawsuit. Maybe you'll even be served with a lawsuit. And I know we don't like to think about that, but that's just the reality of business. And a lot of people think, well, if I put these things in place in my business, then I'm actually going to be attracting them to me. Listen, I'm a student of the law of attraction as well. And for a long time, I thought that. I thought if I focus on insurance, then I'm going to be attracting bad things to me. Absolutely not. That is definitely not the case. In fact, by putting in place these legal structures, the insurance, the financial, and the tax systems, what you're doing is you're showing the universe, you're showing your family, you're showing your clients, you're showing your employees, your vendors, your lenders even, that you are serious about your business. In fact, it's an empowering thing to do for your business, and it is not at all going to attract bad things to you. The fact of the matter is that as a business owner, things are going to happen that appear to be bad. I don't actually think those things are bad. I look at them as learning lessons, and you should as well. They're not bad things, they're just things that happen. And things like lawsuits. I used to be one of those people who thought that lawsuits only happen to bad people. That was until I got sued. Yes, it's true, I was sued. And I'm talking to you about it today because far too few people do talk about it. It's kind of taboo. People don't talk about when they've been threatened with a lawsuit or when they've been sued. Why is that? Because it makes them feel like a bad person. Like, oh, well, I must be bad if that happened. That only happens to bad people. Well, I'm here to tell you that's not the case. If you're in business, at some point, you are going to be threatened with a lawsuit or you're going to be sued. If you're not, you probably aren't putting yourself out there at a big enough level. When you're playing a really big game and you're putting yourself out there at a big level, it's just a reality of human nature, unfortunately, that people are going to be drawn to you that want to pull you down off your high horse, that they feel entitled. They want to take what they feel like they're entitled to. Now, we know they're not entitled to anything, but it's by having your legal structures in place that's going to allow you to deal with these threats without a bit of worry, doubt, or fear. And if you haven't done everything right with your legal entity, with the things that I talked about, like the corporate resolutions and the minutes and the stock certificates and everything else that you need to do to really have your business entity set up the right way, guess what? The business entity doesn't actually protect you from the business risks. In fact, what the court will do is they'll say that business entity doesn't really exist. So what are some of the other pieces about legal? Because it's not just about your business entity, it's also about your agreements. I think of agreements as sacred agreements. They're me getting together with whoever I'm making an agreement with, whether it's a joint venture partner, a strategic partner, a vendor, a web designer, a graphic designer, whoever it is, even my team members, employees, and independent contractors. It's sitting down with them and just documenting what we agreed to. See, the truth is that until you've got it in writing, you don't really have an agreement. You might think you do. You might think you guys are on the same page, but I bet when you start to put down everything in writing, you'll find we weren't on the same page at all. And it's a lot better for you to find that out now than after you've invested a lot of money in moving forward together. Now, I found this out myself after I spent 3 years developing a web program so that parents can name guardians for free on the internet. It's something that's really near and dear to my heart. So I spent a lot of time, energy, and money creating this web program, only to find out that because I didn't have an agreement in place, I didn't own the web program. Guess who owned it? My web developers. Why? Because we didn't have a work for hire agreement in place. Something simple. I should have known. I'm a lawyer, but I didn't. And that's why I'm here teaching it to you today. So there's a lot more about legal that we could cover, but I don't have a lot of time, so I want to move on to insurance. Why do you need to have insurance in place? You need to have insurance in place because when something happens, you don't want to have to go out of pocket. For example, let's talk about those lawsuits. One of the best things about insurance is that if you do get sued, your insurance, if you have the right type, will pay for your lawyer. Now, I didn't have the right insurance in place when I was sued, unfortunately, because I didn't know. I went to an insurance agent who was an order taker. What is an order taker insurance person? That's someone who you go to and you say, "Hi, Mr. Insurance Person, this is the kind of insurance I need," and then they give it to you. But they don't ask you about your business. They don't ask you what you do. They don't get to know your business, and so they can't recommend the right products for you. So when I got sued by a former employee, by the way, I thought that I had all the right insurance in place, but I didn't. I didn't know that I could have insurance that would protect against an employee lawsuit. What did that mean for me? It meant that I had to go out of pocket $10,000 just to hire the lawyer to defend my claim, to defend against this lawsuit that was against me. And ultimately it meant that I had to settle the lawsuit, even though I thought that I was in the right, even though I thought that I did everything right, because I couldn't afford the defense. So I ended up settling the lawsuit for 5 figures, paying this woman who had sued me 5 figures because I couldn't afford to fight because I didn't have the right insurance in place. Not to mention that I'm not a fighter anyway, but I really was in the right. I was a great employer, but ultimately I wasn't able to show that to the court because I couldn't afford to go to court. So that's insurance. There's a lot more about insurance that I have to tell you, but again, let's move on. I'm going to give you some free resources at the end so that you can make sure that you can get everything that I have for you to know about legal, insurance, financial, and tax. So let's talk about financial really quickly. Oh, I made so many mistakes with financial. The first one was that I was not really looking at what my bookkeeper was doing. So first of all, let me just say this. You should not be doing your own books. As a business owner, you need to have a bookkeeper do your books for you on a regular basis. Every week, at least, your books should be done, and then every month, you need to be looking at certain reports. I'm going to tell you what those reports are, but more important than what the reports are is what they tell you. And here's what I'll tell you about financial systems. When you have a great financial system in place, it acts like a crystal ball. You can actually see the future by knowing what numbers you're supposed to look at. Hey, listen, I went to law school because I didn't want to focus on numbers. Lots of lawyers did, by the way. But what I found out when I became a business owner is that the numbers are the key to your business. And what was happening is my bookkeeper was doing my books, and then she would print off these reports, but I didn't know how to read them. And so I would put them away. Well, I would look at them and I would say, okay, do I have money in the bank? Yeah, I have money in the bank. Great, I can spend money. Not a great way to run your business. Here's the reports that you need to be looking at. A balance sheet. Every month, this tells you how much you have in the bank. An accounts receivable report tells you how much is owed to you. Your profit and loss is going to let you know how you did that month and that year. Now, here's the key though. Those numbers don't make any sense unless you have something to compare them to. So you really need to have a plan in place for your business that lays out your financial model that says, okay, this is how much I think I'm going to bring in each month. This is how much I think I'm going to spend each month, and then you can compare your profit and loss to those numbers. You might be saying, oh, my business is too small for that, but it's not. And again, I'm going to give you some resources. Don't worry. One more thing though is tax. never sign a tax return without reading it and looking at it, guess what? You're on the hook if you do, and you need to be meeting with your CPA far more than once a year right before tax time. If you are, you're leaving tons of money on the table. Now, I know I've covered a lot of information today about the LIFT foundation that you need to have in your business: legal, insurance, financial, and tax. And you might be wondering, oh no, I don't know if I have the right LIFT foundation in place now. I thought I had it all together, but now I'm not sure. What do I do?